And Shabbat Shalom and greetings to the 12 tribes scattered abroad. It's great to be here on the blessed Sabbath. And again, thank you guys for tuning in for Matthew's Musings. And greet one another in the chat. Give us some thumbs up if you're getting good audio and good visual, please, in the chat so that I know that I've got the live stream set up. And please, like always, I remind you again, please go to TorahToTheTribes.com and visit the website. You've got all the videos there as well as here as on YouTube. And go to the Connect page and you can connect with various brethren on the Sabbath and on the other Connect and fellowship groups. It's a really great way to build a community, and that's what we want to do on the Sabbath and on the Moedim. And always, please think about donating to Torah to the Tribes. It really does help. And thank you, all of you that do, some through the digital platform, TorahToTheTribes.com/donate, or down below, you can text Torah to that number there, or you can do it the old-fashioned way in the snail mail. I'm thankful. We're thankful. So appreciative. Shabbat Shalom. It's Matthew's Musings. Let's relax and see. Let me check the chat and make sure that I am getting a good response from you on the audio and the visuals. And then we'll proceed with the musings this Sabbath, see what we've got in store for us today. Looking good? Do we have good sound, brethren? Give me some thumbs up. Make sure Yes, looking good. Shabbat Shalom, Remnant Atlas. Shabbat Shalom, Mercy, Mercy. Shabbat Shalom, Daryl Palmer. Great to see you tuning in, brethren. This is amazing. So, yes, let us jump on over, and all is good at Shabbat Fellowship. That makes me feel glad and confident to proceed today with the Sabbath musings. Well, remember again, these are musings. This is not some doctrinal dissertation. These are some thoughts. I'm really on a sabbatical, hence the broadcast just a couple times a month, not weekly, not in a broadcast studio, just from my home. Get a little bit of a different perspective, more relaxed, less debate, maybe a little bit more deepful thought. So, the Shabbat musings. Well, I was recently overseas, brethren, looking at strategic relocation amidst a changing world order. I mean, Venezuela, Iran, Greenland. It's all theater, brethren. It's all theater. Don't be distracted, because what's really happening at the base layer, that's what's important, not the theater, not the theater. So with that in mind, let's muse on Zechariah and a flying Torah scroll this Sabbath. You'd have to turn in your scriptures, of course, to the 5th chapter of Zechariah. And while you're turning, I will commence today's reading. Then I turned and lifted up mine eyes and looked, and behold, a flying scroll. And he said unto me, What seest thou? And I answered, I see a flying scroll. The length thereof is 20 cubits, and the breadth thereof 10 cubits. Then he said unto me, This is the curse that goeth forth over the face of the whole earth. For every one that stealeth shall be cut off as on this side according to it, and every one that sweareth shall be cut off as on that side according to it. Verse 4. And I will bring it forth, saith Yahweh Sabaoth, and it shall enter into the house of the thief, and into the house of him that sweareth falsely by my name, and it shall remain in the midst of his house, and shall consume it with timber thereof and the stones thereof. This is a good musing. This is the good A good base to muse, don't you think? And then we're going to get into this 5th verse, and we're going to see a woman in a basket. And then the angel that talketh with me went forth, and he said unto me, Lift up now thine eyes and see what is that goes forth. And I said, Well, what is it? And he said, This is an ephah that goeth forth. He said, Moreover, this is in the resemblance through all the earth. And behold, there was lifted up a talent of lead. And this is a woman that sitteth in the midst of the ephah. And he said, This is wickedness. And he cast it into the midst of the ephah, and he cast the weight of lead upon the mouth thereof. Then I lifted up mine eyes and looked, and behold, there came out 2 women, and the wind was in their wings, for they had wings like the wings of a stork. And they lifted up the ephah between earth and the heaven. Then I said to the angel that talked with me, Whither do these bear the ephah? And he said unto me, To build it a house in the land of Shinar, and it shall be established and set thereupon her own base. Wow. Very, very interesting. Zechariah's flying Torah scroll. It's about the measure of a soul, brethren, the measure of a soul. It's about judgment in a fractured and rapidly destabilizing world. And that's why I wanted to muse on it this week, especially after coming back from international travels in the midst of what's going on in Central America and over in the Middle East, and possibly even in Greenland. So much theater. I mean, it's so easy to go into fear and apocalyptic scenarios, Matthew, as you've always done in the past. But this isn't a teaching. This is a musing. So I'm going to take a different approach, because it's way too easy to read Zechariah's 5th chapter with fear. And I want to read it instead with wisdom. I hope with wisdom, with zeal. And I want to be discerning, because, like I said, this is just a musing. We're going to look at this in a bit more of a relaxed way, not so fearful and apocalyptic. I mean, Zechariah doesn't shout, does he? He looks. He lifts up his eyes and he asks questions. And that's what I want to do today. We should just come inquiring, because I think when we take a more relaxed approach to Zechariah 5, we may find that we will discover a lot more when we come with inquiring minds. Then I turned and lifted up my eyes and looked. Discernment. I mean, prophecy, brethren, in its truest form is not accusation, it's revelation. And revelation, when it's properly handled, it doesn't have to produce enemies. It can produce clarity and understanding. And that's what I'm loving about the musings, because this is therapy for me, and you're helping me in these therapeutic sessions of musing. So this vision, brethren, contextually, was given to a people that had recently returned from exile. They were living amid shattered economies, broken trust, imperial pressure, if you will. They knew what it meant to live under systems way larger than themselves. They knew what it meant to swear loyalty to powers that promised order but delivered them anxiety. And that's what we live in today. We live in this imperialistic world that promises order and power, but basically it delivers anxiety. And the world is anxious, anxious, and anxious. And empires, they had assured them in times past, as they do to us today, of stability, of currency, of protection. Yet those assurances proved fragile when political winds shifted and economic centers collapsed. So this is a great place to look at the world then, to be able to discern and see the world now. Because Zechariah's audience lived with the quiet knowledge that what feels permanent today can rapidly unravel and dissolve tomorrow. Do you feel that? I mean, I certainly do. So in this sense, Zechariah's world, it does mirror our very own with unsettling clarity, brethren. I mean, we live in an age where global structures, once considered immovable decades ago, are being questioned now in real time. I mean, international monetary systems are strained. Energy markets are actually being realigned right before our very eyes. Alliances are fractured. Borders are being contested and tested on every level. And populations, well, they are being displaced. It is a changing world. And we've got institutions such as the IMF, OPEC, and emerging BRICS economies openly debating among themselves alternatives to the dollar-based trade, particularly when it comes to oil and energy reserves. I mean, what are we going to do? The world is changing. I mean, Europe, I mean, what a toilet. Europe struggles beneath the weight of collective security and demographic upheaval. I mean, the United Kingdom, where I'm from, I mean, it's navigating isolation in the wake of Brexit. And nations everywhere, they're absorbing the pressure of migration, the pressure coming from inflation, and there is uncertainty on the city streets. And scripture names this condition, and it calls out this very condition in Matthew chapter 24. You will hear of wars and rumors of wars. I mean, this isn't meant as some kind of prediction. It's not meant to terrify us, but it's a diagnosis of a world in flux. And we live in that world in flux, brethren. So what's happening? What's happening is happening very fast. In fact, it's happening too fast that it is being misunderstood by our media, I think intentionally, because what seems chaotic is actually the unveiling of hidden tensions that have long been ignored. You see, when the rules start changing, that's when you find out who was really prepared and who was just comfortable. And there have been too many people just sitting in comfort. You see, in times of economic realignment, like what we're in now, and institutional strain, stability no longer comes from assuming yesterday's systems will protect us tomorrow. No, but from understanding the forces at work. And that's what I want to help us understand today. The forces at work beneath the surface, and then how we adapt with clarity rather than with fear. And that's the beauty of the musings. So for us as Torah believers, the vision in Zechariah, it doesn't begin with war. It begins with Torah, a flying scroll. What does that mean? It's about Torah in motion in our lives. Torah in motion. And behold, a flying scroll, verse 1. The Hebrew word for scroll is Megillah. Megillah. It's a scroll. It's unrolled. It's exposed. It's readable. It's not sealed up. It's not hidden like Daniel's vision. It's not stored away. This is Torah made visible, and it is Torah made active. Active and visible. It's not a weapon, brethren. It's not a missile. It's not a forecast or a prophecy of World War III. No, it's Torah released in motion. Notice there's very striking in the text is the size that's mentioned. This is no ordinary scroll, brethren. Its dimensions mirror the proportions of the temple porch itself, suggesting that what's flying through the land is not selective instruction, but the full moral weight of the covenant. That's what's flying through the land. It's bearing the words of blessing and it's bearing the words of cursing. On one side, it's addressing theft, and on the other, it's addressing false swearing. In other words, it's addressing the two sins that quietly corrode individuals and society as a whole from the inside out. Dishonesty in commerce and dishonesty in speech. And we need to check ourselves before we wreck ourselves, right? Because this prophecy was spoken to a community freshly returned from exile. They'd rebuilt walls, sure, but trust was still fractured. Economies were still fragile. Survival instincts were strong, and with them came habits that were learned in captivity, just like the leeks and onions of Egypt. They were cutting corners, they were rationalizing deceit, they were swearing loyalty with the lips whilst living otherwise. A double standard. And the Bible implies these sins brought about dry rot with them, an invisible decay that eats away at the individual, a house, long before it collapses. So the flying scroll in Zechariah, it doesn't destroy from above. It's not a missile. It actually enters into the house. It settles in the private spaces of life, within contracts, within ledgers, within promises, within vows, and it exposes what's being carried back from exile unchecked. What are you bringing in to your life? What are you bringing into your house with your family from the exile, from the world, from the nations? It's time to look inside those private spaces of life, contracts, ledgers, promises, vows, because we don't want to live an unchecked life in the days in which we live. You see, Torah here is not about the spectacle of punishment. It's really about strategic surgery. It's diagnostic, if you will. It's diagnosing truth. It reveals what can't remain if restoration is going to be real. And I want this restoration that we're all experiencing through the Torah, through the Bible, through our faith. I want it to be real, brethren, not surface. It's got to permeate every aspect of your life. And then the vision in Zechariah, it shifts to the ephah. Well, what is the ephah? Well, that's a symbol of commerce. It's a measurement. It's trade. So the message is pretty clear. Spiritual renewal cannot coexist with economic injustice. Selah. Pause and think about that for a moment. You see, wickedness embedded in systems, normalized in the daily life and the daily exchange, it must be removed if the world is going to have any chance at healing. And so the text says, it is lifted and carried away. It's not slowly debated. It's not endlessly tolerated, but it is drastically and surgically removed. And I believe we're in that time. You see, the stork wings do matter. Yes, they do, because they're swift. Yeah, they may be unclean birds, because it's a paradoxical image showing us that even though through imperfect means, corruption will not be allowed to linger forever, brethren. Look at the corruption. I mean, it's all over the news. All over the news. Somali daycares, Somalis this. I mean, we've got Somalis up in Portland everywhere. It's everywhere, brethren. What threatens the world's future isn't merely external pressure, though. but internal. There's an internal distortion. We've got the Fed, we've got the Treasury, we've got the IRS, the stock market, we've got leverage. Torah in motion, it's not about denomination, it's about alignment. This vision reminds us that renewal, it doesn't begin with overthrowing empires. It begins with truth entering into ordinary life, ordinary people like you and I, waking up and being red-pilled to the reality of what we live in. You see, speech must match action. Commerce must, reflect covenant. And homes that can bear weight because the rot has been addressed. We need to address the rot in our own lives, in our own home, so that the homes can bear the weight when the pressure comes. I mean, Torah flies not to terrify, brethren, but to restore. Torah, Tav Vav Resh He. Torah, mark, the covenant, the boundary. The Vav, of course, the joining heaven and earth together. And we've got authority, or the orientation, where you look. And of course, the He, that's breath, that's revelation. So Torah is not meant to be understood as law imposed, as the traditional church would see it, but as divine orientation breathed into human systems, because Torah is about aligning our lives with the very order of creation and the very creator. Those that are outside of Torah, they're out of alignment. Those that are in Torah are aligning their lives with the very order of creation. And it's a blessed life, brethren, even when it's hard, because that scroll flies. And that means Torah is no longer confined to temple. It actually moves across land. It moves across homes, economies, and it moves across your very conscience. Torah on the conscience, because it's been let loose. It's no longer confined. In Hebrews chapter 4, verse 12, the word of Elohim is living and active. It's an active Torah. Judgment here is not some future apocalypse. It's present exposure, brethren. I mean, we live in a global world that is collapsing because its foundation is theft and false oaths. There's a moral requirement for commerce, and there is a moral requirement for economy. And people don't believe it, but there is. Everyone who steals, everyone who swears falsely, verse 3 in Zechariah chapter 5. Now, notice what's not judged in verse 3. What's not judged? Nations, they're not judged. Empires, they're not judged. Religions, they're not judged. It's the actions that are judged. Theft and false oath, these are covenant crimes because they corrupt trust. It's the invisible infrastructure of society that is being corrupted right before our eyes. Liars and thieves, theft and false oaths are the covenant crimes, brethren. People who break trust believe they're clever. They think they've outsmarted us, but in reality, they're actually shortening their future. In Proverbs chapter 11, verse 1, it says, a false balance is an abomination. Those are strong words. Is an abomination to Yahweh. This is not about just stealing objects. It's about stealing stability, stealing future, stealing meaning. They don't realize you can get money fast by doing the wrong thing, sure, but it comes back slow and it comes back hard. Judgment is not fire from the sky. It's systems. It's systems turning against those who violate them. It shall enter the house and consume it, verse 4. Bait, house, bet, inside or containment. Yod, hand, action, and tav, of course, the covenant mark. The house, it's not just about walls, brethren. It's the structure of our lives. It's the structure of our homes, our family, our marriages. What are the walls of your relationship? How are they plastered? How are they held up? Judgment doesn't destroy cities first. It collapses interiors, the insides of a man, the insides of his house. There goes the man, there goes his house. Unless Yahweh builds the house, those who build labor in vain. Psalm 127, verse 1. Bad things happen, brethren, not because Yahweh wills them, but because chaos exists and responsibility matters. The scroll doesn't attack randomly. It enters where integrity has already been abandoned. I mean, think about that, brethren. In verse 6, this is the ephah that goes forth. An ephah, well, that's a commercial measure. That's talking about economy, trade, exchange. An ephah is spelled Aleph, Pei, Che. Aleph, the source of beginning. The pay, the mouth, or how you express something. And of course, the hay, breath, revelation. An ephah, then, is how society values reality. And when value systems become distorted, injustice, well, it appears normal. And it appears normal to this world, but it's unjust. And I see it. And I think you see it too. And Zechariah sees it. Zechariah, he's not condemning commerce. He's exposing unjust measurement. I mean, we've got to do commerce. We're in the world, but not of the world. But we are to address, of course, the unjust measurement of things. Isaiah chapter 5, verse 20. Woe to those who call evil good and good evil. I mean, this is where prophecy touches our world today. I mean, traveling overseas, you see global markets, energy flows, leverage, dependency, fear. I mean, money is energy. It never disappears. It just transfers. And energy you don't control, well, it controls you. It controls you. Now, let's look at the woman, because the woman in the measure is wickedness personified. Look at verse 8. This is wickedness. Verse 8. This is wickedness. The text doesn't say this is a people. It says this is wickedness. Resha, wickedness. Resh, head. What governs your thoughts? Shin, fire, intensity. Ayin, your eye, how you see and perceive things. And He, your very breath that can be taken from you, brethren. Listen, wickedness is misdirected perception energized by intensity. I'll repeat that. Wickedness is misdirected perception energized by intensity. Wicked people are intense people, right? When you come into contact with them, when that chaos just bounces up into your life, it can be pretty intense. They're pretty intense people because this is psychological, brethren. This is spiritual. This is universal. The woman is a symbol. She's not a target. She sits inside the economic system, meaning corruption. She embeds herself within the very structure, not outside them, but inside, within the very structures. She sits on the beast, if you will, Revelation chapter 17, verse 3. Not because she rules it, but because she's carried by it. The woman represents a monetary system of seduction, luxury, credit, consumption. Oh, the easy life. While the beast, represents the underlying governance structure, the coercive power, and the political machinery that make that seduction all just so sweet and possible. You see, the woman doesn't stand outside the system. She sits right within its midst. And this is crucial for us to understand. Corruption in scripture is never merely external. It embeds itself inside human systems, economic, economies, religion, political, and politicians, until those very systems become dependent on it for stability. Revelation chapter 17:1, she sits on many waters. And of course, we know waters throughout scripture symbolizes peoples, multitudes, nations, and tongues. Revelation 17:15. The woman, she's not one nation. She's a monetary and psychological order that operates through nations. That's what must be discerned. And of course, in our modern times, brethren, this is best understood not as a single bank, but as a fiat-based financial Rothschild, Federal Reserve, creature of Jekyll Island, if you could, architecture. I mean, this is a system that is sustained by confidence, debt, enforcement, and belief. Fiat money is evil, and it's evil by nature. It's fragile by design because it requires perpetual trust. In God we trust. Well, it's not the Elohim of Israel, Yod He Vav He. It's the Elohim of Mammon that they're trusting. The all-seeing eye above the pyramid. It requires perpetual trust, perpetual growth, and of course, perpetual enforcement. This is why Revelation says something quite startling, really, in Revelation chapter 17, verse 16. The beast that you saw will hate the woman. That's quite startling. The beast that you saw will hate the woman. They will make her desolate and naked and will devour her flesh and burn her with fire. That's startling, brethren. The beast destroys the woman. The very governance structures that once upheld the Rothschilds, the synagogue of Satan, the Federal Reserve System, eventually turns against it, not out of virtue, but necessity. And brethren, we are fast encroaching upon that time of necessity, if you can't see it. I mean, this is a prophecy about systems under strain, where debt outpaces productivity, when confidence outpaces reality, when enforcement replaces consent. The beast no longer needs the illusion, it consumes it. We're witnessing globally this happening right now. And it's not chaos for chaos sakes, brethren, but for realignment. We are in a time of realignment, just like what we saw in 1933. It was chaotic, but it was meant for realignment. As it was then, so it is now. Nations are beginning to question whether sustaining a single global monetary illusion still serves their survival. Instead, they're pivoting towards real sovereignty anchored in tangible realities. I'm talking about resources, oil, gas, rare earths, manufacturing capacity, chips, energy, infrastructure, hard assets, gold, silver, commodities, digital settlement layers, stable coins, blockchain clearing systems. That's what it's all about, brethren. This isn't rebellion. It's reversion back to the fundamentals, because everything's broke. In Revelation's language, the merchants mourn not because Babylon was moral, but because the system that enabled frictionless extraction collapsed. Look at Revelation 18, verse 11. The merchants of the earth weep and mourn for her, since no one buys their cargo anymore. I mean, Babylon falls when trade no longer flows the same way. And trade is not flowing the same way as it did a year ago, brethren. I mean, this explains why modern geopolitics increasingly revolves around control of settlement mechanisms rather than ideology. And we're seeing the shift with this new government. I mean, it's about currency, trade routes, energy, and technology. These are actually becoming the new borders. This doesn't mean every territorial conflict is divinely mandated. I'm not saying that. No, it means power follows structure, and structure follows what sustains life. I mean, we've got oil and gas and semiconductors, arable land, shipping lanes. These are not abstractions. They're the modern equivalents of grain, gold, and gates. And you read that all the time in the Bible. The Bible's all about grain, gold, and gates. Well, now it's oil, gas, semiconductors, arable land, shipping lanes, brethren. That's what it is. Even scripture actually anticipated this very pattern. Ecclesiastes chapter 9, verse 18. For wisdom is better than weapons of war, but one sinner destroys much good. You see, systems collapse not merely from enemies, but from internal imbalance. The woman's crime in the book of Revelation, it's not immorality alone. Sure, there is immorality, but it's not just that. It's dependency without accountability. That's what it's all about. Dependency without accountability. In her heart, she says, I sit as a queen. I shall never see mourning, Revelation 18:7. I mean, this is the psychology of fear confidence. It's too big to fail. The bankers always get bailed out, guaranteed forever, immune to consequence. No, but scripture's clear. No system escapes entropy because power structures decay the moment they confuse permanence with dominance. I mean, I know I'm laying a lot on you, but a lot's happening that we've got to be wise as serpents and as harmless as doves. If the system doesn't work for you anymore, brethren, build your own. And people and governments, well, they're doing just that without the United States, without Europe, without the UK and the Commonwealth nations, without the West, brethren. The beast doesn't destroy the woman because it becomes righteous. It destroys her because illusion becomes liability. And that's where we're at in the world today. What replaces her is not necessarily justice, at least not immediately. Scripture never promises us utopia through collapse. It promises exposure. Revelation 18:4 says, come out of her, my people, lest you take part of her sins. I mean, this is not a call to flee geography. I mean, though it would be wise to think tactically where you should live. It's a call to withdraw your resources, your assets, and withdraw psychological dependence. Don't confuse the system for salvation. Don't confuse liquidity for life. And don't confuse stability for eternity. Revelation is not the world is ending. It's not. It's not all about the world is ending in Revelation. It's don't anchor your soul to a system that must, by nature, consume itself. That's the warning of Revelation. The woman rides the beast until she doesn't. For a time, she's carried away by its power. She's financed by its own momentum. She's protected by its reach, but it's for a time. And that time, I believe, is coming to a rapid conclusion. Every beast eventually turns on what it carries. And when the beast devours her, the question is not, well, who's right or who's wrong? The question is this: what were you riding? What were you riding? Some will cling to collapsing systems, mistaking comfort for security. Others, well, they'll see the moment. They'll recognize the moment now, and they'll step off the old rails and they'll board a different train, not one powered by fear promises or borrowed authority, but by self-sovereignty. Self-sovereignty is what we should be directing our lives about. Real value, discipline, freedom. Ride the freedom train, brethren. Ride responsibility, ride discernment, ride the rails out of illusion is what I'm calling, and ride the rails into substance, because that's where it's at. That's what I see on my travels, because history doesn't reward those who stay seated when the engine has already began to fail. And it's began to fail, brethren. And if you can't see that, then you need to peel off the blinders, because the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 10. It's time to pivot. It's time to pivot. And it says in verse 8, a talent of lead was cast upon it. I mean, lead is heavy. It sinks. Heavy in the Hebrew is kaved, and it's spelled kaf bet dalet. And kaf, it means containment, the letter kaf, containment. And bet, of course, the interior, like the house. And dalet, the door or the pathway. So to be heavy is to be burdened by your own choices. And this is why Pharaoh sank in the sea when I shared on the last musing. The horse and his rider he is thrown into the sea, Exodus chapter 15, verse 1. Because the sea is chaos, brethren. The horse is raw power, and the rider, well, that's just ego without wisdom. Because when emotion outruns discipline, then both drown. Both drown. Scripture calls it judgment. In verse 9 of our text, they lifted the ephah between earth and heaven. And this is the most haunting line for me, especially in light of my year. Because judgment is suspended. It's not resolved. It's held between realms, beyond distance, beyond time. I experienced it. The spirit returns to Elohim who gave it. Ecclesiastes 12, verse 7. I mean, reality is layered. It's layered, brethren. This is what I'm trying to express to you each and every week. I mean, Paul knew this. He was caught up between the third heaven. In 2 Corinthians chapter 12, judgment isn't annihilation. It's placement. It's placement. And Shinar is returning order to its very origin, to build it a house in the land of Shinar. That's what it says in verse 11. Shinar is Babylon, not a nation, but a pattern. And Babylon, it is systematic arrogance. Or systemic arrogance, I should say. Because you said in your heart, I will ascend, Isaiah chapter 14, verse 3. That is systemic arrogance, brethren. You said in your heart, I will ascend. Judgment returns disorder to its source. It's not vengeance. It's resolution. It's resolution. In a world that I see is shaken by an energy crisis, wars of influence, fear, and fear economics, really. And there's all these contested narratives. This text this week just reminded me, judgment's not about destroying enemies. It's about correcting imbalance. Imbalance in my life, imbalance in your life. Yahweh will take care of mine enemies. I don't need to destroy them. They've already destroyed themselves. I'm going to correct the imbalance in my life. so that I can be on an even keel and live the best life of which I'm living. Chaos exists, brethren, it does. But chaos is not sovereign. Yahweh answers out of the chaos in Job 38, verse 11. And he's answered me out of the chaos. He's answered my family out of the chaos. And I'm so thankful for my friends and those that I count on and love. Many of you that are watching. We're not promised insulation, brethren. We're not promised meaning. Remember the song of Moses? Yahweh is my strength and my song. Because I'm not necessarily meant to escape. Salvation isn't escape. I'm meant to align. And so are you. Because salvation is alignment. The sea still swallows arrogance, and the righteous still walk through. And the scroll, it still flies. So Zechariah 5, it's not about fear for me. It's about responsibility in a multi-layered reality. The question isn't who's cursed. The question is, what are you building inside your house? What are you measuring your life by? And who's riding the horse? And who's drowning? That's judgment. That's wisdom. And that's mercy. And that's my Shabbat musing on Zechariah 5. I know, brethren, it's a little different. More of a rambling, isn't it? It's not a doctrinal dissertation. But I hope you enjoyed my Sabbath musing on Zechariah 5. A little bit of geopolitics, a little bit of world traveling. It's been fun. I'm going to pop over and see if any of you are still here. And remember, give us some thumbs up. Put some comments in the comments section. Please consider donating to Torah to the Tribes. It really does help. And go and enjoy the website and connect with some brethren. Look up the other brethren on Shabbat Fellowship. Meet and greet and make new friends. And if you've got a question for me, pop it up in the chat and I'll see if you're still there. All right, I'm going to refresh the screen here. Give me a second. All messages, yes. Shabbat Shalom. That dependency without accountability thing is what Satan wanted to when she rebelled. Everything is dependent upon Yahweh. But in the rebellion, I didn't want accountability. I will ascend. That's some words of wisdom. Sam and Ani love Yah. Spot on. Well, thank you. Tess Ward. Do you still feel negative about the Dead Sea Scrolls? I think the Dead Sea Scrolls have their place, but not for doctrine and establishing doctrine, but for history and for aligning, just like I think the book of Yasha has its place, not for doctrine, but it has great place for sure. It's how you use it. Grandma Mimi, so glad her skirt is being lifted up to uncover her iniquity. Yes, Jeremiah chapter 13, verse 22. Karen Long, Shabbat Shalom, Karen. That's why the beast and the false prophet, falsehood and thievery, will both be cast by Yahweh into the lake of fire immediately when he returns to rule as king. Some good discernment here. Shabbat Shalom up there in Washington. Deb Hill, the barter system seems sensible and doable. Grow your own, baby. Grow your own. That's right. Let's see what else we've got in here. Oh, here's a good one. I love the wordsmithing here. Murmuring, enchanting, merchanting, merchants, murmuring and enchanting, the merchants. I love it. Oh, yeah. Word magic. And I do use that deliberately, that word. Very good. An epoch is a significant starting point for a new era or a long, distinct period of time used in history. There you go, too. Very good stuff. You guys were paying attention to the lesson today. It wasn't a lesson, it was a musing. But hopefully there's a lesson within the musing, right, brethren? Yes, I did say wickedness is misdirected energy characterized by intensity. Keep that one under your cap. You can remember that when you come across it, because you'll recognize it then. There is a way which seems right to a man, but in its end his way is death. Proverbs 14, verse 12. Trust in the Most High and his Ruach. Thank you, Yochanan. Yochanan Weaver, John Weaver, Shabbat Shalom. I haven't heard from you in a while, brother. Nice to see you tuning in. We've got the great Northwest Bear says, I've been listening to him, that must be me, 15 years. He's a pro at mispronouncing words. Oh, total pro at mispronouncing words. Well, you know, half the time I'm not sure whether I'm English or American or somewhere where the Titanic went down mid-Atlantic. And then some of these words I only learned when I was in America because I never got to use them when I was in England. So then I do the American kind of version English. Oh yeah, total mispronunciation. I love it. Good stuff, isn't it? Good stuff. All right, brethren. All right. What else we got? I think we're coming to the end of the chat. Looks like you were very engaged, though. Muse on, Matthew. You are therapy for us too, brother. Well, there we can be therapy for one another. Mercy, mercy, 007. Shabbat shalom to you guys. And thank you for tuning in. I'll see you in a few weeks. Shabbat shalom.